got slides. And, so when I stepped down as Vice Dean of the school in August this year, Kishore was kind enough to organize a very lovely appreciation lunch in my honor. And I was, of course, very, very relieved to finally again regain my freedom. But I have to admit, feeling just a little bit sad about moving on after devoting a decade of my life to serving in the school's senior leadership. I'm certain that Kishore must also be feeling something very similar today. I mean, the exhilaration on the one hand of entering a new, perhaps even more spectacular stage in his life. But at the same time, looking back at the institution that he has put so much of himself into building, and all the people who are part of this institution. So I would like to pay tribute to a man who is synonymous with the LKY school, but whose success can also be measured by our readiness today to flourish even further without him at the helm. So, other than the sheer energy, determination, toughness, guile, and persuasiveness that one readily identifies with Kishore, what else will I remember most about him? Well, I would say his sartorial elegance. The man, you will agree with me, cuts a dashing figure. Dresses up in a beautifully tailored suit one day, then emerges as a bejeweled Maharaja the next day. And then surprises us all with short shorts that reveal the impressive legs of an avid runner. And on some days, he shocks the more conservative among us with his fashion forwardness. But what impressed me most are his beautiful batik shirts. In fact, here is a picture of one of them. And today I'm going to reveal a secret. Now, shortly after Daryl Jarvis, my predecessor, was appointed Vice Dean, he met Kishore at an official event and complimented him on this very batik shirt that he was wearing. Now, Kishore took the compliment too seriously. So the next day, he presented the shirt to Daryl as a gift. Daryl, of course, never ever wore the shirt. And then, when I took over as Vice Dean, Daryl gave it to me. I too never wore it. And so, in August this year, when Danny Kwa took over as Vice Dean, you guessed it, I in turn presented the shirt to him. In what has now become a tradition of passing on Kishore's batik shirt, now a sacred garment, from Vice Dean to Vice Dean forevermore. Now, back to Kishore's impeccable sense of style. Not surprisingly, he was a groovy young man back in the day. But speaking of the very, very distant past, you might be surprised to know that Kishore and I actually grew up on the same street. Of course, separated by an entire generation. Right? But he and my parents were neighbors. And my parents are fond of telling me that Kishore was a very studious young man, always reading. And everyone knew he would go very far in life. Now indeed, he was later awarded a President's Scholarship in 1967. So if you're wondering, Kishore is the guy, a third guy from the right. And as an undergraduate, Kishore was already rather critically minded. Here is his rather courageous front page article in the student newspaper in which he criticized, of all people, guess who? Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. When the then Prime Minister spoke at a forum at the university. Well, who would have thought, right? Well, not surprisingly then, Kishore went on to write 6 books, all of which are provocative and critical in some respect or other. His work, including the numerous op-eds that he writes, commands a global following of committed admirers, as well as some detractors. But everywhere I go, I seem to meet people who belong to the Kishore fan club. No exaggeration, everyone says this. But Kishore's writings today are a natural extension of the tremendous impact he has made as one of the most internationally prominent Singaporeans. As a top diplomat, Kishore was famous for demanding that the world take Asia seriously. And this continues to be his strident message. So I've been very privileged to serve on such a man's leadership team since I joined the school in 2007. Over the years, under Kishore's captaincy, the school's journey has been rapid, it's been sometimes turbulent, but always exhilarating. Here is a gathering of 3 out of 5 academic vice deans since the school was established. It was our job to strengthen, improve, and stabilize the school's academic core, while the dean focused on extending and magnifying the school's brand far beyond our shores. So successful was Kishore in this respect that people everywhere knew of and respected the Lee Kuan Yew School, often because they knew and respected Kishore Mahbubani. Through his tireless efforts, doors were opened for our school, strategic partnerships were forged, and the school's financial position is today the envy of academic institutions everywhere. But while the management committee, or MC as we call ourselves, deliberated on weighty and often not so weighty matters at least once a week, we were also a very convivial group, which did not shy away from partaking in regular sustenance. Here we are eating. Here we are eating again. And here we are eating some more. So yes, we do like to eat. And Kishore's birthday was always a nice excuse for us to eat yet more food. As you can see, every year we threw a surprise party, birthday party for Kishore, in the same room, with roughly the same food. But ever the diplomat, Kishore obliges by pretending every time to be surprised. But in spite of his punishing schedule, the man never sleeps, Kishore always made sure he spent enough time with the students. The dean's lectures in particular have been very popular. One of them has in fact become almost legendary. Guess which one? Well, this one. Right? This is the so-called MPH lecture, which argues that Singapore's success can be explained by 3 principles of governance, namely meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. Now, one student told me a story about how when she got into a taxi one day and told the driver to go to the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, the driver said, "Oh yeah, that MPH school, right?" Well, anyway, in this lecture, Kishore likes to give the example of how Singapore is strict about requiring public servants to declare any gifts that they might receive in the course of their work. So when he himself received a gift of a Mont Blanc pen from Mr. Lee Ka-shing, right after the property tycoon had agreed to donate $100 million to the school's founding endowment, he had to make a declaration and pay several $100s so that he could keep the pen. Well, luckily he did that, because when Mr. Lee Ka-shing visited the school later on, Kishore was able to show him the pen that Mr. Lee had given him in Hong Kong. Now, the highlight of Kishore's year has got to be Cultural Night. I have never seen him happier than when he walks into the hall and starts to engage with our students from all parts of the world, wearing their national dress, serving their local food, and performing songs and dances from their homelands. Every year, the dean lets his hair down, he jumps onto stage and he dances Bollywood style like there is no tomorrow. So as he steps down at the end of this year as the great founding dean of the Lee Kuan Yew School, we also want to remember him as the man who danced with joy. This has been the golden age of the Lee Kuan Yew School. And without Kishore Mahbubani, I simply cannot imagine how we could have become what we are today in such a short period of time. So on a more personal note, my dean, we fought fires together, we dreamed big dreams together, and we celebrated victories, small and grand. Thank you for the memories, and thank you all for listening. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of inviting the Dean up to collect not one, not two, but three gifts from the school. And the first gift, please come up. The first gift is a Mont Blanc pen, which you don't have to declare or pay for this time now.